Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Lost in Chronologically Lost, where we get not one, but two whack Season 3 flashback plot lines.
Oh boy.
Where do we begin with where do we begin with this one?
I think I know where to begin. We get Desmond waking up and, the guy who, as you have not let me forget, is Mr. Krabs, asks Desmond if he's him on some, plankton?
Yeah, and he asks him, what did one snowman say to the other?
Yeah.
Which...
Also, I think, this just occurred to me, but is the Lost Island, is it the island above where Bikini Bottom is?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. That's why there's all these talking fish. The radiation.
The electromagnetism.
Yeah.
So, there is no boat, apparently.
Yeah.
The boat's just gone, and Desmond just washed up on the beach.
And this guy, his name is Kelvin Inman, because people named their kids Kelvin, apparently. Good for them. But we're at that base that I recognize it because, ages ago when we saw Redzinski, making a little wooden model of it, it's that shape, so it's clearly that important base.
Yeah, it's the swan.
Hatch. And when Redzinski was freaking out about whether Saeed saw, the model of the base, I'm just like, okay, but the shape of it can't be, the important part. That's just the aesthetic design of it. I don't know.
Right, so...
Radzinski's an asshole, point being.
Yeah. So Kelvin goes to go push some buttons on a computer that resets a 108-minute timer.
So,
which just to say, 108 is the total. Is what you get if you combine 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Of course, sure, but at this point, I don't remember where, but I've gathered that now to contain the heart energy or whatever, you need to press the button or the electromagnetism keep it from doing stuff, and Desmond is gonna fuck that up. Because Desmond is great at commitment. But that's going to happen. And we get an instructional video from Pierre Chang about, explaining this. And I feel like, okay, so he actually survived it, which wasn't he right at the spot, which would imply that, the main cast also survived, I guess. But...
Right, so he did lose an arm, though.
He stayed on the island, and I'm just kind of thinking... at that point, why wouldn't you call your wife and kid back to the island?
Because they didn't think it through.
This
was written seasons before that happened.
This one seems like just a little bit stitched together. But...
Well, the orientation tape is itself literally stitched together, as there's some missing parts to it.
Which good old Radzinski ruining everything.
Right. He made some edits. It's never exactly clear why he made edits, just that he did.
Oh, so it's not like there's some important information that they weren't allowed to know.
I mean, there is, but it's not like... I don't see why he would cut it out. I don't understand. The explanation is just that Redzinski is an insane person.
So then,
and Mr. Krabs says that you can get infected and you need to take a vaccine every couple days. So, which is weird because the others seem fine.
Yeah, that's in my notes. The others are fine. I'm like, maybe is this closer to the actual site of the explosion, the radiation? I don't know. Maybe there's some bullshit going on. But
maybe, but now we're going to go to the others from the viewpoint of Juliet.
I'm just wondering at this point, how long has Kelvin been here? Who assigned him to this role? It's strange.
Yeah, he will mention it later.
Alright.
So Juliet is crying because, as we find out, another woman and her baby died today, and she wasn't able to save them.
A while back, when Juliet mentioned, every child she tried to deliver, died, and it's maybe this is before what caused that. And I didn't realize, how much of a big deal this was to her. Her whole job being here was to try and figure out why that was happening and fix it.
Sorry, what? Sorry, no, don't say anything. Just... Okay, so then a man comes in who will find out is named Goodwin with what is obviously a chemical burn on his arm that he lies is an electrical burn.
I didn't think it was obvious, but maybe I'm just not a burn expert.
Electrical burns are usually darker. They're not usually colored like that.
Sure.
At least in my experience.
How often have you been electrically burned?
Well, I haven't been, but I had to learn how to treat different burns.
Really?
I did like 4 years of like lifeguarding training.
Oh,
you have to learn everything.
Oh yeah, because people are getting burned at the pool.
Yeah, this isn't exactly. Yeah, this isn't like I know how to fix it. It's I know how to treat it for about 8 minutes till the EMT show up. Yeah. That's what I learned. I learned the 8-minute period I have to cover. Right, and Goodwin suggests that she go talk to Harper, and she's like, "Oh, Harper's trash," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm her husband." So,
and this good old boomers, I hate my wife, and
okay, but to be fair, Harper does seem awful. Like,
yeah, well, yes, but then it gets complicated later. But so next we get a blonde woman who I'm just immediately like, okay, that's Kate.
Wearing a terrible blonde wig.
Yeah,
because
it looks fake. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought. Maybe if it was believable, I wouldn't have known immediately it was Kate.
Especially since it's supposed to be dye, but it's obviously a wig.
Yeah. So she's changing her plates. Clever. She has a whole bunch of them. Good plan. Although I'm like, wouldn't you want to do this somewhere more private? Like, wouldn't you pull off and do a side road where nobody is to change your plate instead of doing it at a motel where there are other people walking around? I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. This whole scene is just a whole long nonsense thing just until she finds out that her mom has cancer.
Yeah. And, she has to go there, and there's a policeman.
They've downgraded from 6 to 1 though, so
yeah, it's been long enough, and so she goes to say hi to Tom, and
Tom, who is the kid who was with her when she tried to steal the lunchbox, which I didn't want to bring it up because you only find out this episode, but the lunchbox is important because it was their time capsule, which is why that's an important flashback for Kate.
So she just gets in his car and is like, hi. And he is doing this for her, and I didn't immediately remember, the kid from the flashback, and I didn't remember, like, what his name was there, if it was even mentioned, but at a certain point to guess, like, okay, this was probably that kid, which explains why they're so close and they're willing to do this.
Right, so they have a nice 2 a.m. chat, apparently, where, you see Tom has a wife and a kid. So I hope things go well for him.
Yeah. But they go to the tree, they dig up their time capsule, and honestly, I was pretty bored by this. Like, I don't care about your time capsule. I don't care about your memories. This is a stupid thing to waste time doing when you're on the run and you're a criminal.
Well, it's not wasting time. She has 3 hours to kill.
I don't know. I wasn't that interested in that part, and the recording of them talking as kids, didn't care for, and then they just start kissing even though he's married, because, good for them, dumbasses.
Right. Well, they even mentioned that even as a kid recording that, Kate wanted to run away, which is, what she's now spending her entire life doing.
Yeah, good for her. She's going to get to go very far away soon.
Yeah, very, very far. Well, soon. I mean, this is like 2001, so in like 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. So they set up some whole thing so that Kate can see her mom, but as soon as the mom recognizes her, she calls for help because her mom is complete garbage.
And it's like, okay, first of all, Kate should have expected this. First of all, Kate is, a fool for this. But her mom is definitely bad here, because it's like, I mean, what, you think, her mom is clearly just, like, like, yeah, I get it, Kate killed your husband and all, but she's clearly not gonna kill you. This is clearly... she's clearly not here to put you in danger. You're just being judgmental.
This was a season 1 flashback. They hadn't figured out what she had done yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe this was season 1. The one where she kills her stepdad was season 2. And then the one where she talks to her mom in the diner is season 3, I think.
Huh.
Or might have been season 2. I don't remember.
So...
yeah, they wrote themselves into a little pickle on this one, but...
yeah. Because, I mean, sure, it's not like a plot hole, it's not unbelievable. It just makes her mom's character...
even worse.
Ugh, I mean, come on. Like, it's like, okay, honestly, if you just hate Kate, sure, you hate Kate, but, like, saying help, like, I don't know, you seem like you were saying help because you thought you were in genuine danger, and that is just inaccurate.
Exactly. It's...
but then we get
it just makes me hate Kate's mom even more.
We get a car chase, you know, well, a little bit of a car chase, and, like, she's even taking Tom with her, and he's like...
she tries to get him to get out.
Yeah, and he refuses. He's like, okay, and then he gets injured, and that's all we get of that for a while. Because next we get, of course, a Charlie story.
Well, are we skipping over the part where Tom died? Like, he dies.
Wait, Tom died?
Yes, he died.
Oh, I just thought he was injured.
No, he...
Wait
he
a second.
is dead.
Wait, I need to review something now. Give me a minute. This, he died.
Yes, he died.
Really? Okay.
I'm not trying to fool you or anything. This isn't supposed to be a mystery. He
Okay.
died in that car crash.
He has a... okay, so later, she's with Kevin, right?
Uh-huh.
And Kevin and Tom have slightly similar faces. And so, like, to me they did. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little face blind. But I thought that was...
so,
I thought that
they
was...
look nothing alike.
I thought that was still Tom and that he was using a different... I mean, it was like a full episode
Oh my god,
later.
no,
I was so
no.
confused. I was like, at that whole plot, and I was like, is he using a fake name? Or, like, did he go on the run with her? But then it's like, then why does...
No, he died. He died in a car crash.
Okay, you know what? I was really confused there. I was like, what the hell is this? But, okay. Sure. Let's move on from that.
Right, he dies and Kate doesn't take the little airplane with her. And then we get a Charlie story, so I imagine your interest is plummeted.
So, it's like, so is Charlie a drug addict now?
Yeah, he's a heroin addict.
Because they just went down this direction and, like, they kept alluding to him, like, and they didn't show it as directly as with his brother. I'm just like, damn, Charlie. You'd think
well, it was like he's a heroin addict, but his brother was an even worse addict, is the point.
Wait, really? I thought... okay. Well, you should have known better, Charlie. I'm judging you for this one.
Right, so they're gonna try and rob this rich guy's place by seducing his daughter to get him in.
And I'm just like, oh my god. I'm so glad that the scene of him flirting with her was short and brief because it was making me cringe.
See, I think the thing is that it works because he's actually good looking. So
is he? I mean,
yes.
You know, I can't tell this kind of thing like you, but I mean, he looks British. I'm sorry, but he looks British.
What's wrong with looking British?
Nothing except for when, because look, everyone look. You know what? I'm not gonna go down that road.
Okay. Oh, they also mentioned that her father has recently bought a paper company up in Slough, which is a reference to the British Office.
Oh, really?
Because they were a paper company in Slough. Yeah.
Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just canon to this that same universe.
Yeah, the Office and Lost are in the same universe.
Yeah,
and
not the American
Office.
Office.
That's canon. No, the American and the British Office are also in the same universe.
Wait, really?
The main character from the British one has a couple cameos in the American one as his character.
Huh.
Yeah, it shows that he meets
Learning
the main
new
character
things.
of the two main characters from both series. They meet up in one scene and they immediately hit it off in the 2-minute conversation they have. But anyway, so now we're going to a scene with Juliet that is all morose because most Juliet backstories are just sad.
There were a couple things I wanted to mention about that bit with Charlie. First of all, I hadn't yet quite followed that he was going to steal something. So at first it was like, why is he ogling the furniture? Then it was mentioned that rich girl's dad idealizes Winston Churchill, which is like, oh boy.
It's a very British thing to do.
Yeah.
I see.
Very... oh boy, that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, then we get Juliet, failing to save someone. And he's just like, it's okay, you tried, which is, that wouldn't make me feel better.
Right. And then Juliet tells Ben that, the 6 months is up, so she wants to go home. And then Ben says, nope, your sister's cancer came back,
wait,
so...
See, you're skipping a thing I thought was interesting, because she was like, I think it happens at conception, so to test it out, we need to take someone off the island. And Ben is like, nope, not happening.
Right, yeah, he's very controlling in that way.
Yeah, but
doesn't want anyone to leave.
Then Ben is like, he's like, okay, your sister has cancer again, and, we'll cure it. Jacob will take care of it if you stay here. And I'm just like, okay, so it's been 6 months, and they've already told Juliet about Jacob. And he's like, do you not have faith in Jacob? And I'm like, should she in only 6 months? I don't know what she's been told or shown.
Yeah, Jacob is very mysterious. As you know, the only one who can actually meet Jacob is Richard Alpert. Yeah. So
I mean, I get that And a 1. And a 2. Hey everyone, Matthew here. We had an unfortunate technical difficulty during the recording of this episode. Everything after what you just heard was unfortunately lost on my end, and we couldn't just show you only one side of the conversation. So instead, I'm going to be giving you a just brief recap of everything we talked about, my thoughts on things, and if I can remember them, a few of the points that David made. So we left off with the conversation between Juliet and Ben, where I had some interesting thoughts on, how much does Juliet know about Jacob? Does she have faith in him? I'm not really sure if Ben believed she was supposed to. And after that, we get the whole Charlie plotline, which I personally was not big on. I just didn't really feel a hook into it. He had this whole issue of wanting to steal when it's just like, dude, you would have a better life overall if you married this girl. Who cares what your friend wants? And I actually was confused by it, and David had to explain to me that he was also addicted to heroin. I, for some reason, just thought that in contrast to his brother, he wouldn't be, but at this point, he definitely was. And that's why when he tries to actually take a job and sell a copier, he fumbles it horribly and vomits into it, which was uncomfortable to watch, but funny on some level. And then when he goes back, he talks to Lucy, and it wasn't for me. For the most part, episode 17, kind of one of my least favorite episodes. There was a lot of a Charlie plot that I also just did not find interesting. I wasn't that into the Kate plot. The Juliet stuff was good, and of course, the ending was good, because we finally get to see Echo again, and we see the catalyst to his upcoming plotline, where he's involved in this drug trade, and these guys are trying to get some heroin out of the country, and he agrees to buy it, and then he just cuts their throats anyway, though he spares the kid. And that really got me excited. That got me interested in what would happen next with him, and I can say in episode 18, what happened with Echo was interesting. But before that, we get Jack's scene where, he's talking to his friend who was going to do the best man speech, and he's actually getting married. And, the girl he's marrying the one he saved in the surgery through the miracle, she looks a lot better now that she just is actually in a decent state, But, it's very nice, but he's having his whole struggle with his vows. And his dad, I had some interesting thoughts on his... skip me saying that, that's filler. His dad was actually pretty good here. I think the key point I made was his dad is not a great dad. Christian, I think his name was, but he did his best. It's just that usually his best wasn't good enough, which is different from some of the other bad dads we've seen who didn't even do their best. Now, Christian, he was doing their best. It wasn't good enough, but he is trying here. He gave some solid advice for once. He gave him the watch. He wanted Jack to be a better father than he was. He acknowledged that, and I like that. And Jack's whole struggle with the vows, it baited me, because there was a whole lot of vagueness to how he felt. Like, I wasn't sure if he actually wanted to marry her. Was he just doing it for the sake of it, for the commitment, or was he scared that his dad said he wasn't good at letting go. Was that saying that he was supposed to let go of doing this because it wasn't actually what he wanted, he just thought he was supposed to? And so when he actually gave his basically improvised vows, I was scared. I was worried that he would just say that he couldn't do it, but instead he turned it around so well with saying, "I didn't fix you, you fixed me." Great line, great save, great way to express your love. And, I was worried he would say, "I didn't fix you, I'm not a miracle worker, that's not how I am." But, I like what he said, and that was satisfying. After that, we get this Kate thing where she's marrying a cop, and she's using a fake name, and I didn't care for it. It felt kind of out of nowhere. And that was kind of a trend I wanted to comment on, where a lot of Lost backstories, they kind of just skip ahead, and it's like, how did the characters even get into this situation? And usually that's what I want backstories for, the how do the characters get into this situation. And sometimes it just feels like I doesn't get it, and they just expect me to take it for granted, and I could use a little more. So I wasn't very into Kate's plotline here. But then we get Echo. Echo was definitely the highlight of this episode. He goes to his brother who has become a priest, and we have just a good conflict between them. I like these situations where two brothers have gone down different paths and they still have that connection, but they recognize that they're very different people with different goals and they want different things. And anyway, Echo has this interesting plan to use the church plane to get the drugs out of the country. And I think he has this whole justification that he's taking the drugs out of Nigeria and his money for the vaccines, but his brother Yemi is a moral person. He says, "No, you're still just profiting off of drugs. We're not doing that." And then we did get a bit of a Sawyer plotline, which again, it had that whole situation where I'm just kind of wondering, how did you get into this situation? It's implied, he was caught and Cassidy pressed charges, and that got him in jail. And I guess that works, but it was definitely a shock to me to see him suddenly in here. I could have used what was in between. But I actually liked this plotline where we have the guy who stole money from the government, and Sawyer gives him advice and everything, but then it turns out that Sawyer was working for the warden all along. I should mention, that warden, such an intense face. He could make you admit what you did and confess just by staring at you. And both David and I were kind of struck by how his voice is not as deep as you would think from his face. But anyway, Sawyer gets the guy. It was all a scam. Even within prison, he's pulling a scam, and he actually gets a commission from it. And, he gets out of it. He gets out of prison. And what he decides is that he wants the money to go to his daughter, even though when he found out about his daughter, he had the negative reaction, which, that's a great character thing, and I'm sure we'll see way more of the dynamic with his daughter once we actually get to the present, because that was hinted at a while back during the flashback arc in a way I didn't fully understand at the time. Now, we get a scene with Juliet, and, she is figuring some things out about how it works, but then she has to go to the therapy again with Harper, which is this whole dynamic I think I don't fully understand, where they're, required to go to therapy every week, except the therapist is clearly, still in this high school drama kind of mindset. But she is right about the fact that Juliet and her husband were having sex, which I didn't expect from Juliet, but I guess that's just... I mean, I understand where it comes from after thinking about it because she feels so alone on the island. But, you know, I'm not really sure where that plotline will go, but it's one of the better ones during these episodes. But then we get more Echo, and I'm doing things a little out of order here, like there was more Sawyer stuff, but I'm just going to focus on Echo from this point on. Because Echo, he wants to be made priest, and he has this stuff to sign, and Yemi agrees to it because of the threats, but says, you will never be a priest, and, you know, if that isn't one of those great ironic lines that they put in because they know what's going to happen. And then when Echo is loading the stuff in to the plane, Yemi comes up and he's trying to tell him to stop because Yemi is a good person. Yemi could have just told the military, as he obviously would because he's a good person and he needs to tell the authorities. That's how he thinks. He could have just done that, but instead he went there himself to try and save him and convince him to stop. And it doesn't work. And even Yemi gets shot, which is just awful. But then, oh man, not even satisfying, but just the powerful moment is when the soldier sees Echo and is like, are you okay, father? They think that he's the priest who told them about what happened. That is when this backstory went from a good backstory to a great backstory. That is when I started to become really interested in what we would see next. He goes back to the church, he says Yemi is gone, but he's taking his place, and he's even going to go to London too, which is a little bit of a stretch. I'm not sure if he can get away with that, because I think Yemi would have gotten that opportunity because, not just because he was the priest of this specific church, but because of his own talents and skills. But anyway, he washes his hands in the holy water, and then he finds out about Yemi making a deal with these gangsters who take 80% of the vaccines. And I think this is interesting for Echo's character because he's realizing there's more to Yemi than he thought. Yemi made compromises. Yemi was also dealing with a difficult world and doing his best and wasn't perfect. But honestly, I am just so interested in seeing how Echo deals with this because I don't think he's just going to go wild and shoot them up because I think he wants what this priest position can give him, like going to London. But, you know, it's also just cool to think, like, well, he isn't a pushover, he's a badass. Maybe he'll just stomp these guys who are trying to take stuff from him. So, went from a good backstory to a great backstory. It's probably the one I'm most interested in seeing what happens next on. It's not as good as Locke's or Michael's, which really made me feel things and I would still love to see more of, but this is the one that really has me on a cliffhanger right now, that I want to see how it gets resolved. So finally, we get some more time travel. We get Locke shouting for Richard. That's the conversation that he wanted to conclude back in the 50s. We get people on a raft. They get on the beach. The freighter is gone. And Bernard and Rose find each other. And, you know, we have the whole reveal. It's not where are we, it's when are we. That isn't the line they use, but that might as well have been the line they used. And that's fun. It's just kind of filling in the timeline, the holes I didn't quite understand yet. And that's nice. But the thing that struck me is that Sawyer did not know who Daniel is. I would have thought, I totally expected that Daniel joined the cast way earlier than this. I thought he would be. I'm pretty sure I knew he wasn't season 1, because I know season 1 is the plane, and then they mentioned that the freighter happened later. But I would have thought he would join in season 2, or maybe season 3, but it feels like he might have only joined the show right before the time travel stuff. Maybe? I'm honestly not totally sure, because I don't know the circumstances. Maybe he was on the island earlier, but just they were split up in a way where Sawyer wouldn't know him. But I suspect that's a question I won't get answered for a long time, because I think we're going to get a little bit of this time travel stuff here before they get flashed to the past where we saw them right before they got attacked by the others in the 50s. And then we're just going to get more flashbacks. So again, interested in where Echoes will go. In general, I wasn't that into some of the flashbacks this episode with Kate or Charlie. Jack and Juliet were pretty good. That's where I am right now, and I'm, as always, excited to see what happens next. Hope you join us next time in Lost and Chronologically Lost. I'm Matthew. Sorry I had to get my rushed recap of this instead of the proper recording. We'll make sure that the technical difficulties don't repeat themselves next time. See you next time.